Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. I took the battery box down because I wanted to make a lid. Took the box into work yesterday and did just that, and it actually turned out really nice. I got like a 1-inch lip coming down. It doesn't pivot, but I've only got one hand, so 1-inch lip just comes down and it basically just fits right on top of there, perfect like. So I'm gonna take and drill and tap some 1/4-20 fasteners around here, probably 8 of them, 3 on the front and back, 1 on each side, and eventually there'll be like a I don't know, like a foam gasket, some sort of weather stripping or something on the inside. And while I had it down, I wanted to drop these. Well, I say drop these, raise these. I raised these up about a 1/2 inch, which sort of dropped the box down, if you know what I mean. Because I just wanted to make sure I had enough clearance above there. If anything heavy gets thrown into the bed, I don't know. I don't want it to come down and whack on my battery box. So I wanted to make some clearance. And the way I did that was I just basically I measured where the top of one of the mounts is, and just subtracted a 1/2 inch from that to bring it up, and then just went ahead and cut all the mounts off, put one mount back where it does go in its new location, then went underneath and put those drilled and tapped blocks in the mounting locations up here, and then brought the box underneath here, lifted it up, and installed it. Then I could position where then I could tack the mounts into the new position. But what a pain in the butt. This is a real nightmare. It's very difficult to install. Now, one of my problems is, I think I mentioned before, these holes are drilled to 3/8, so there's no clearance in those holes for the bolts to go through. But it must have taken me, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes just to get that one block, and the one that I had welded in there first. It must have taken 10 minutes just to get that one in. And then when I got that one in, then the whole box sort of slid up between the other 3 just nicely. And, I leveled it and positioned it and did what I wanted to do with it. Long story, whether you like it or not, is that I'm going to redo this. I'm redoing these. I'm going to take all these down. I'm going to grind these out. I'll take this radiator mount down, grind all those out, take all those down. What I need to do is sort of 180, not 180, I need to do like 90 degree those things. So there will be a stud coming down from the bed, and then there'll be some sort of angle coming here with a hole in it. So when you lift this up, it locates on those studs, and then you just put a nut on it, and it's much easier. Because if I had this much trouble putting this thing in now with it empty, it'd be a complete nightmare if it had 200 pounds worth of batteries in it. So I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. Wow. I don't know. So on my screen, the white balance is just wrong. It's really bad. So maybe it's not like that on your guys' side. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. That sounds like a weekend project. I was supposed to have a tractor show Saturday, but the forecast is saying it's going to rain all weekend, so that may not actually happen. This weekend may be a make more mounts kind of a weekend. But the other reason I don't mind changing these is because I never liked how these look. They just look really sort of like spindly. They just look dumb. I don't like how they look, so I'm going to redo it for a number of reasons. Anyway, it's going to be a bunch of work, but that's just how it is. That's the game we play. All right, we'll see you in a minute. I thought I'd bring you guys down here. So instead of doing something about that battery box, I don't want to do that right now. What I want to do is come down to the river and just sit here. It's a really nice evening. The river's up a little bit. We had about 1 inch of rain the other day, so it's a little muddy. Usually the water is just clear, really nice. And I Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of come down here and hang out for a little while. My house is just right there. We got a friend. We got a cat coming down here. But anyway, we're just going to sit here for a little while and enjoy the evening. All right, so back up and Punt continues. And I think I've come up with an idea. And just for the heck of it, got the old TIG welder out because I wanted to do this new idea using it instead of a MIG welder. MIG welder would have been a whole lot faster. But as you'll see here in a minute, it doesn't really look as nice. What am I going to do? I went on Amazon and I started looking for vibration dampening mounts or something like that, because it's always been in the back of my mind that this battery box, all these battery boxes, should have some sort of vibration dampening. I don't know if it's really necessary, but it can't hurt, I suppose. So I was looking at rubber isolation dampening, but there's quite a few polyurethane dampening kits, and they consist of a big outer tube, and then in that outer tube go these little urethane bushings, and then there's a smaller inner tube that a bolt passes through. So that's what I got. I got a set of those. And if I was doing a suspension system, I would look at them and go, wow, these are really not very big. But since I'm not doing a suspension, I'm doing a 200-pound battery box. They're massive overkill. But I think they're going to look a lot cooler, and they should be a whole lot easier for when it comes time to install the battery box. And they come, this is the inner tube that I was talking about. Now, the way it's set up, this inner tube, not an inner tube, but an inner tube, has a 16 millimeter bolt, which is like 5/8 or something, 3/4. It's really, really big. If you've got a suspension system, that's okay. But if you've got a 200-pound battery box and 4 of them, it's ridiculous. So I didn't want to use those. What I wanted to do was somehow make these smaller, so 3/8. So what I did was the inside, 5/8 is the inside diameter of these tubes. So I just got a piece of 5/8 solid rod, put it in there, cut it to length, and then just kind of tack welded the sides here. And then the idea was to face that off to the correct length and just drill a hole right through the middle. And that's what I started doing this morning, figuring, hell, I'll be done by noon. Nope. So this is what happened. I used the TIG welder, and all I did was autogenous welded, which just means you melt one metal into the other. So it's just, I just started with the heat on the inner tube, and then it just melted into the other one. And that was cool, and that was going to hold that in place, and that way I'd be able to turn it and run the drill bit through it, and nothing would break and fall out and slip. But unfortunately, what happens whenever you heat something that hot is it gets really hard. And if you can tell in this thing, that hole is not at all in the center, and down by my thumb is where the weld is. You can kind of tell that by, yeah, there you go. See how there's no crease there from, like, there's the top where I hit one little spot weld, and then the bottom I welded it better. So whenever I put it in the lathe and turn it, the drill bit just avoided that hard metal a lot and drilled a hole that's crooked as hell. So that sucked. Can't use that. And so the next deal was I was thinking about going and getting some 20 millimeter rod, because that's pretty close to what the outside diameter of this is. This is a little bit bigger than 20 millimeter, but that would have been close enough. Or I've got some 3/4 inch rod just laying around. So that's what I used. I just used that and turned it down to make little dudes like this. And then the idea with that is this is just regular mild steel, so I should be able to face that off to the right size and drill a hole right through it. And this was my test piece just to see how it would, because this was chrome rod. This stuff was chrome,
and that's pretty hard on inserts on your lathe, and especially a little bitty lathe like this little tiny guy. And but yeah, I wanted to see if it was going to work, and it did. Sure enough, it worked so good that I turned this down too small, so I couldn't use it. So made 4 more of them, and here they are. Yep, and that's how that is. And then what happens is, that is the outer tube that I was talking about, and I just took in the outer tube of that is 1.5 inches, and I took a piece of 2-inch wide, 3/8 thick flat bar, drilled a 2.5-inch hole in it, put this bushing this outer tube in it, and kind of spaced it off of the table with a piece of half-inch flat bar. I'm giving you a hell of a lot more detail than you need, but you're a captive audience. 1/2-inch flat bar with a piece of 16 gauge underneath of it to try and get this part as close to the center as I could. And then if this was flat, and then this outer tube was resting on the table as well, it would be flat, thinking that, that was going to work really good. So I hadn't TIG welded for a while, so I made a tack, but I made a really, really long tack. And damn it, you'd think I'd know by now, for the amount of welding that I've done and do, that whenever you tack weld something, it warps. And so here's the side that I tack welded on, or maybe it was this side. It was probably this. This is the side that I put the initial tack on. And you see how this thing's like, it just pulled that thing out of square so bad. And that was probably the first one. This was the second one. This is the one that I noticed it on. So it wasn't as bad as this one. And the only way to fix this would have been to cut this piece of 3/8 flat bar off entirely, chuck this back up in the lathe, and turn it down to the correct OD, and remake this piece again. And do it. It don't matter. It don't matter at all, because this is going to be on a battery box that's kind of upside down right now. There's going to be a battery box underneath the truck, and you're never going to see it. And I will end up putting this goofy looking one towards this way, where there'll be like stuff there. There'll be a box there, maybe a fan. I don't really know what I'm going to do. There was a fan, but I don't think I'm going to put it there anymore. Anyway, I'll put this somewhere where you can't see it. And even if you can see it, you'll see it from the bottom, and I'll make sure that this part is in the middle, and you'll never notice that part's not. So it'll be fine. And then the two that are actually good, I'll put them on sort of the back of the box where you might be able to see it. And here's what I was talking about, TIG welding. Now, I am not a TIG welding expert, but every once in a while, you see how that part's shiny and that part's dull? That part got hot. That part got overheated. And this just takes a long time. You have to do several passes. You just do like maybe 1 inch at a time, and then come back, do it some more after it cools off, because this gets hot as Hades. It gets really, really hot. So, I mean, it came out all right. But yeah, so I'm pleased with how that came out. It just takes a long time, but man, it does look nice. And then what happens is, these are the little rubber bushings I was showing you. They push in there, and then these little doohickeys that I made, they slide in there, and it's actually really, really tight. And then you take a 3/8 bolt, and that'll just, doing this on camera is not as easy as it looks, and that'll just slide through there. And then I'll make my little 1/8 inch supports that I've been making for the motor and previous ones for this battery box. This took all day. Those took hours to make. These took a long time to make. This took a really, really long time, and I don't even know if it's going to work yet. But I think it's going to work better, and that's all I was shooting for. And it definitely will look cooler. I mean, seriously. It looks pretty cool with this bar across there. Like, that's a sort of lifting structure, but that's not going to be there anymore. Anyway, that is the plan. And, yeah, I think that's going to be a much better deal. I'll probably mount one side a little bit lower than the other. That way, I don't know, why would I do that? I said I was going to do that thinking that it'd make it harder to mount in there backwards, but at some point I'm going to have like a big connector right here where the BMS wires come out, and, a connector over here where the main voltage comes out. So it's not like it's going to ever be able to go in there backwards. So I'll probably just do them symmetrically on both left and right. And what I can do here, this rod, this is a 1 1/8 inch piece of rod, and that's the same as the inside diameter of the outer tubes, and I'll just set it up and then put these where I want them, and then I can take a measurement from here, take the lid off, pull a measurement from here down to this, pull a measurement from here down to this, and that'll get it square. And then this rod will keep these parallel to each other, and then that'll keep that square. And then whenever it goes up, and it should slide up and down symmetrically, and that's what we want. And man, what a day. This is one of those days where you have no motivation, but you finally get out here and you do something, and then it just turns to mess. And it's you just got to keep on going. You just got to keep doing it, and eventually you will get done. But that's where we're at for now. So, alrighty. Alright, so I've been busy making brackets for the rear battery box. And again, it's just the same as normal. You start out with a little paper piece kind of, and then you transfer that to just a piece of 16 gauge. Make sure that it fits rigidly in there, and then you go ahead and do it with a piece of 11 gauge, 1/8 inch sheet metal. And I was able to make 5 of these, and I need 8. I ran out of 1/8 inch sheet metal, so I had to take a quick drive over to work to go borrow some. Let's take a look at that real quick. Well, I had to come back to work just for a minute. Needed a couple things, but I thought you'd like to see what this bandsaw ends up looking like once it's more or less done. This part here goes up and down, and that's how they adjust how high the stack of paper is. And over there is a little guide that's going to be on here. There'll be like a wheel, and it'll roll on that track, so that guide will determine how thick it is. And then over here on this side, there'll be a handle. It'll have an aluminum bar, and it'll be like your pusher, so you could have a stack of paper anywhere up to about 18 inches, I think it is, for this particular model. We also do one that's lower, so it won't have this little jog here. It'll pretty much come over, I don't know, roughly right here. But anyway, you have a stack of cardboard that could be as wide as this and as tall as that, and you just sit there and you push this thing through. And then on the inside, that's what it looked like on the inside with the wheels, just trailer tires, and works really good. So there you go. Thought you'd like to see that. All right. In case you were wondering, now you know. Let's take a look at what that looks like underneath here. I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Oh, tractor. All right, so this is how it's going to end up looking, and I think it is way, way better. I've just got everything sort of sitting here. It's not exactly in its final spot, but it's close enough. You get the idea. But I think it's way, way better. I think it looks better. I'm certain it's tougher, stronger, and yeah, that's how it's going to be. I keep putting my fingers in front. This was kind of a pain in the butt, actually, these deals, because in the same way that it warped, or whenever I welded it, it twisted this mounting situation. Every time I put a tack on here, it would pull it this way, and it would pull those two out of alignment. The one down here was no big deal, but whenever you do that one, it pulls it this way, and whenever you do that one, it pulls it this way, and it doesn't really pull it back when you do it on that side. So what I ended up having to do, through some trial and error, I finally figured it out, but I have that long bar going between them, and I can go ahead and tack, say, that one, and it's going to pull it this way, so it's going to pull the bar down over here. But if I put some upward pressure on there, and then use the TIG welder to heat that weld pedal up, then it'll loosen up, and then I can pull it a little bit extra, and then when that weld pedal cools, it pulls it down. And through a little bit of trial and error, doing that 2 or 3 times, you finally get it to where it matches up. And then when you get both sides, then you can do the other side, and that just sort of locks it in place. Then you come over and do this side, weld the inside, pick up on that a little bit higher, it pulls it back down so it's even, and you can do the other side. And I think to weld those in final, I think it's going to hold. The welds on both sides should hold just fine. What I'll probably do is I'll do like a little, I'll do a little bit of a bead down here, and then see how the alignment is,
and I'll do one on that side, same. And then once it's good down there, then it should all hold. And anyway, I think it looks much better. So that's it. But in the meantime, before I went to work to get new sheet metal, I started working on my little tractor. There's a few things that I wanted to do on this little doohickey. I got the back body of it off, of course. This little linear actuator in here, this is what raises and lowers the 3-point. I overcooked it a while back and stripped out some gears on the old one. So I replaced that. And then while I was under here, I wanted to run put power to these lights. So I got some light bulbs. And then also, one thing I wanted to do is I want to have the ability to have a linear actuator on the back to, like, I don't know, have an automatic height adjustment for maybe a lawnmower or something, or a sickle mower. I've got my eyes on a sickle mower. If I could have a linear actuator on a sickle mower, that could raise the angle of the blades, and for various reasons. But so I got one of these doohickeys, and it's just a connector, and it's got 4 screws where you mount it. And I'm going to put it back here underneath where the electric power takeoff was. You'll have to look at the other Cub videos if you're interested. But that's one thing I'm going to do also. And another thing I needed to do was, you see where this is rubbing. This is rubbing really bad. And not only is it chewing up the paint, but it's also annoying. So I came in here and kind of raised those, both the left side and the right side here. I raised those up a little bit to hopefully make that not annoying anymore. And yeah, and like it takes me a long time to wire stuff. I sat and stared at this thing for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, just trying to figure out how I'm going to run the wiring for the lights. It's stupid, but you know, that's how it is. All right, I think that's all I had. That's a pretty long video this week. I didn't do last week, but all right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.